Thank you for putting up with our prior audio issues. We are still learning the swing of things when it comes to recording. This will be our final episode for the year. And without further ado, we can go ahead and start.
Welcome to Your Boo Handbook, a guide to help you enjoy Halloween all year long. Welcome back to Your Boo Handbook. This is episode 4. I am Sam.
I'm Fonzie.
And since it's the end of the year, we wanted to discuss movies we've seen this year that are categorized in the horror or thriller genres. There are movies this year that we did not see, so obviously we won't be able to have an opinion about those movies, but we wanted to give you all a list of our 5 favorites of the movies that we did see this year.
Well, new movies from 2019.
Yes.
Specifically.
Oh, yes, new movies. It is hard to actually find a cumulative list of movies from this year because I went onto IMDb.
The Tribune.
And I also went onto other websites. And then when I looked at what I had purchased this year in my own movie collection, I realized, oh, this movie wasn't on that list. But I knew it came out this year because we saw it. I liked it, and I bought it. Like Ariana Grande.
What?
The song.
What song?
It's okay, you don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so here are the list of movies in 2019 that we saw that are categorized as either thriller or horror. Most movies have more than one genre, including like mystery, sci-fi. So we saw Glass, Us, Ma, The Intruder, Escape Room, Child's Play, Crawl, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Ready or Not, It Chapter 2, Joker, Parasite, Zombieland Double Tap, Knives Out, and Greta. So of those movies, what was your 5th favorite? Not your top, but your 5th favorite movie.
My 5th favorite? I would have to say it was Child's Play.
Yes. Why?
Basically...
spoilers are allowed because these movies have all come out.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not, well, I thought it was like a really fun movie. The plot, I think, stayed reasonably true to the original. The original was obviously ridiculous, but like still fun. Also, I thought that the characters were a little bit better fleshed out. Aubrey Plaza's I guess portrayal of the mother was pretty funny.
I liked that the boy was older.
Yeah.
And I liked the turn into like the digital age of Chucky being in the digital age.
Right. Yeah. It was pretty interesting how like instead of it being just some sort of magical thing, it sort of went in like what was that movie called? The Toy Soldier movie?
Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers. It went like that turn.
They were scary.
With the artificial AI like figuring everything out and just turning evil because of some disgruntled employee, which David Cross was in Small Soldiers, and he is Tobias Funke
from Arrested Development.
Yes. No, and then the Mark Hamill doing the voice of Chucky, and like the song, I didn't figure it out until the very end. When he was singing the actual song, you could just hear the song that whatever Chucky.
His theme song?
What is the doll's actual name? Was it actually Chucky?
It's a Good Guy doll.
Good Guy, but the Good Guy song, the Good Guy doll song was sung at the very end by Mark Hamill, and that's when I figured it out. And I was like, oh my god, like this voice.
Remind me who Mark Hamill is again?
He's Luke Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What about you? What did you like? Oh, I also liked it because it was pretty gory.
Yeah, the kill scenes were intense, especially with like, was it the lights or the lawnmower?
Both, like when he's like killing the adulterer guy. I mean, it just like it kind of does follow the trope: if you have sex, you're gonna die, kind of thing. Except for Aubrey Plaza, but I guess.
But I think this was a really great remake. I think they did a good job. I can definitely see why it's your number 5. It may have made my list, but we will see.
Oh, we will see.
My 5th favorite was actually Greta.
Yeah.
It starred 3 women. They were the main characters, so that's just a different type of horror movie. And of course, it's different in the fact that this older woman just leaves her bag for some unsuspecting young college-age woman to be a good Samaritan and want to return the bag. and that's how she gets her next victim because she's lonely. So it was really,
bait.
really just different, and I enjoyed that it was all female leads and an unlikely villain. What is your number 4?
My number 4 was Us. So I think I liked Us a lot because it's a really good follow-up to Get Out, also directed and written by Jordan Peele.
But they're not related stories, just same director.
I understand. But I think it touches on that sort of suburban or middle-class horror sort of genre where everything is pristine and nice and, like, safe, and then it's not. And then, like, how that turns on then the main characters who are then forced into like a survival situation. So I think it covers like a lot of different types of genres. So it's like a mishmash of different ones. And like, as always, like there's always like really funny, like comedic laugh out loud moments in Us. But there's still like always a little bit of horror. And I think in the special features, I think there was something that said, that horror and comedy often rely on the same type of mechanics because essentially the setup structurally is similar and then the payoff is similar. But if you just change sort of like a plot element, then it becomes either funny or scary.
And you need both in order to like get through it. If it was just straight up horror throughout, you would like your heart would literally just like pound out of your chest, and you actually burn more calories when you watch horror. So you need that comedic relief.
Oh yeah,
to kind of like relax again and then like settle in again and just care more about the characters.
Yeah,
Us is obviously on my list, but we'll see where. My number 4 spot was Child's Play. So we already talked about that. What was your number 3 spot?
I think my number 3 was Ready or Not. And
I'm surprised that's not higher on your list.
I mean,
you really enjoyed it.
To me, I don't know. It was a really like well-made movie. Obviously, a very gory movie, but also very silly movie. But I think it touches also on. I feel like there's been a lot more movies regarding just how wealthy people are just absolutely bonkers, like just batshit insane,
and how they can do what they want because they have money.
Well,
The Purge obviously talks about that too.
Yeah, but that's like on the nose, like how like that is. But like this movie really like literally deals with like a family has a deal with a literal devil, and that's how they have their wealth. Like there's no reason for it other than they made a deal with the devil,
and they have to abide by the rules of this game, and they have to play.
Right, that was part of the deal. Seek. Well, they have to. They in this story, someone who is not part of the family, obviously not, but not wealthy, someone lower class, is marrying into a very wealthy family that is that they own a company that makes board games and things like that. So they're very well known for that. So she marries into this family, and on the wedding night, the thing that needs to happen for her to be admitted into the family is that she needs to play a game. And the game is decided by like chance or something. I forget.
They choose a card. So yeah, it's shuffled and she picks a card.
It's a little box that shuffles it, and the card will give you a game. And I guess it could be anything from like Monopoly, something benign like that, to like whatever.
Homemade checkers they mentioned.
Yeah. So occasionally the plot goes that there is a card that is called Hide and Seek, and basically the bride or the person marrying in, because I guess it could be the groom as well, would have to survive the night as they're being hunted by the family.
But they're not supposed to survive.
Right. Yeah.
It's part of the sacrifice to the devil.
Yeah. So it's pretty like cool on how just vapid and completely just separate from reality, like obscenely wealthy people are. I mean, they live in this massive mansion. So it has like, I feel like it has vibes. I always got like Jumanji vibes from it, probably because it's also a board game, but like the original Jumanji. So it has like that kind of like, and in fact, like the game room is actually like a hunting game room. Like it has like these
next level.
It's got these like animal heads or whatever mounted on the walls. It's got these old rifles. It's all like rich
antique
mahogany
weapons.
Yeah. So it has like all these like little cultural elements of like a bygone era of like, turn of the century, and then this is 19th to 20th century, so very old stuff. So I like that a lot. The main character is cool. I mean, it's deep in its shallowness. Every character has obviously a quirk, and they're all easily identifiable. But it's just, for me, it was just like so funny, and especially at the end when you think the characters, when you think like the family's gonna get what they want, and then they just don't and survive, and then they don't. And this girl, the bride, she manages to get out of their clasp, and then everyone just fucking explodes.
Yeah. And it was funny how much it was very gory, obviously, at the parts that it was gory.
Yeah.
But you were rooting for her like the whole time.
Yeah.
She was definitely like a heroine, and she's just in this like fucked up situation.
Also, what's good is that you never felt frustrated by what she did, which is really one of those pet peeves
That's
that I
what
have.
Us was great for too.
Yeah, you never feel frustrated because they're never breaking that sort of
Oh, well, you're having sex, so now you're gonna die.
Well, it's not just that. I think you're not breaking into like breaking the rules set up by that universe. You know, like the movie from as it's going along, it's sort of like is setting up these rules, at least like on a sort of subtextual level. It's like you kind of understand how things work. It's like, you know, if
in the universe of that film, these rules apply and these rules don't.
If everyone's human, suddenly if someone starts like, you know, flying away, you know, you're not going to that's weird, you know. That's something that's like breaking the rules of the universe. So it doesn't really do that. She's trusting in her husband and the groom, and then she has to like break that trust because he ultimately ends up betraying her, and then he tries to get back with her, and it all happens in the course of the movie. The movie's only like 80 minutes, which is also like great. So a lot of it happens very quickly.
So it also gave me vibes of like You're Next, which is one of our favorite horror movies because it's also somewhat of a home invasion. I can talk about it more because it is on my list.
Well, let's go through this list.
Well, my number 3 is Crawl.
Oh.
And that's the one where there's a hurricane in Florida and she has to go help save her dad. And then these gators are huge and they're obviously man-eating and they have to survive. Well, not just the hurricane and the flooding, but now these gators who are in this also crawl space underneath their house, which I don't know many homes in Florida that have that because it's not like we have basements down here, but it's just kind of interesting. So it's
claustrophobic.
One of the key elements for my love of different horror movies is minimal characters because you have to have great actors in order to like enjoy the movie. So obviously this follows this woman who's in college and she goes back to her dad. She has a sister that she talks to on the phone, but ultimately there's literally her dad, and the dog. And of course nobody wants the dog to die, and of course the dog survives. So in case anybody was wondering if there's any sort of doggy problems, you will be stressed out, but the doggy does survive. I thought it was hilarious. Obviously, both times I saw it in theaters, I was a little tipsy, but it was so fun. It was just like a different kind of ride. It wasn't, I mean, people were like, oh, is it like Sharknado? And when I saw it with my girlfriends, she didn't know that it was about gators. She was just like, oh, let me come to the movies with you. And when that gator popped out like through the stairs the first time you see it, she was like, a gator! And that's just why I love Christina, because she just cracks me up. What was your number 2?
I think this is like a tie, so it's kind of difficult to say that which one.
Or wait, did you say your number 3? Wait, did I say my number 4? Yeah.
What?
Did you say your number 3? What was your number 3?
What was the number 3?
Did I skip ahead?
No, I said Child's Play, Us, and then Ready or Not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so your number 2.
Yeah, number 2, I would say is, I feel like this is a tie for, actually, like, these are 2 of my favorite movies of the entire year for sure. And I think they're complex on different levels, but...
I think I know what they're going to be.
So, I mean, yeah, that's what it is.
Can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess.
See if I'm right? Because we haven't told each other what our list is. Midsummer.
No.
No? Okay, then Parasite.
Well, you're not going to give you multiple guesses here.
No, it was going to be these 2. Come on, Parasite.
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to say that it's actually Joker. I'm going to say that Joker is probably my second favorite, but I mean, it just depends. When we saw it, I was extremely impressed with, obviously, Joaquin Phoenix's acting and all that. That was fantastic. but it was one of those things where it's also the setting of it, where it's like a decline in, and it's basically set in between maybe like 70s, 80s New York. And if anyone knows a little bit of history from that era of New York almost went bankrupt. So they had to essentially take out massive, like, usurious loans from these banks. And actually, Donald Trump was in prime, I guess, land grabbing state at that point. And it was pretty, like, I guess, eye opening when there was a scene when Arthur Fleck, who is Joker's alter ego, he is, and who Joaquin Phoenix is playing, is at a therapist's office, some sort of like social worker office,
helping him get his medications for his mental illnesses.
Right, he is a mental illness, and she says there's no more money, and he kind of is in his own little world, and she says to him, like, no one gives a shit about you, and she's about to lose her job, and she says there's no one gives a shit about me. So it's pretty, like, sad. Obviously you don't want to, like,
it's the system that's sad. It's not just
right.
that the person is dealing with that. It's that the system
Right.
isn't handling or helping.
Not that, like, you know, villains necessarily require some sort of, like, cause. You know, some people are just terrible.
This was way deeper than like a Batman story, even though I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I forgot that Bruce Wayne was Batman, even though my
Yeah.
friend totally named their son Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I'm pretty...
This is a character, like, drama disguised as I guess as a comic book
Online,
movie.
they did say, like, categorizing this movie, it was a crime drama thriller. So
Yeah.
I didn't consider it in my list because it wasn't as thriller, but
Yeah.
I was, like, probably holding my breath at some point. So
Yeah.
I can definitely see it being your number 2.
Yeah. And it also reminded me a little bit of, you know, just Eat the Rich and all that stuff. So there's a lot of that sentiment, like, I guess, like, in various protests and around the world, especially like the yellow vests in France and Chile and stuff like that.
Sure, whatever you say.
I mean,
You would know, I wouldn't. I would have to Google it, and then I still wouldn't know. So my number 2, we've already talked about, was Us. I was blown away when we saw it, and then I saw it again in theaters. I actually saw Crawl twice in theaters and Us twice in theaters. When I saw Us, obviously I love Jordan Peele. My only, like, problem with it was that it didn't have director commentary on the Blu-ray, and I was, like, so sad because I wanted
just an interview.
I just wanted to hear him talk through the whole movie,
which was great about Get Out, because it did have the commentary in
yeah,
it.
and he was talking about, like, his goals for his next horror, and it's just so nice to see, like, to be in an era where horror is being born, like, new horror, because obviously, like, there's been so many Halloweens and Texas Chainsaw Massacres and Freddy's and Jason's, and we weren't in the 70s or 80s for these movies, so it's like this director, Jordan Peele, is creating horror for our generation, and, like, we are able to digest it and just enjoy it. I'm so excited. So obviously I also enjoyed that it was featured at Halloween Horror Nights because you got to be in the movie, and I was so excited that the bunnies were in the house too. That was so fun. Also, minimal characters, and the actors and actresses actually had to play 2 separate roles, which was just brilliant, and they were amazing. And the main actress,
Lupita Nyong'o or something.
yes, she was actually in the Halloween Horror Nights house in Hollywood. She was
Of course
playing
she was.
herself. I wish that I lived in Hollywood sometimes, but then again, Orlando's better, so nope.
Yeah.
And so you're number 1.
My number 1 is Parasite.
Yes.
And
most people may not have heard of this one.
So this is a South Korean movie. It's actually the same director as Snowpiercer. And this one is a very class-conscious movie. I think it works on, like, a bunch of different levels. It's actually, like, laugh out loud funny in so many different parts.
The whole audience was laughing.
It's definitely a dark comedy. I would say almost first and foremost, because there are just, like, so many moments where they're just, like, deadpan, like, humorous, and it's about a poor family essentially getting, kind of scamming or swindling a very wealthy family, and how they sort of infiltrate their life and their household and all that. How they trick them into getting, you know, say, like, the son tricks them into hiring his sister to tutor the kid, how then the sister tricks the family into firing their current driver and hiring their father as the new driver, and how they get like the maid, essentially like the housekeeper to be to fire her and then hire the mother of this family. So it brought me a lot of Peru vibes with it, because
it was definitely like third world.
It's not third world, that's the thing. So there's that weird
the class structure where they were living, it was very much Peru like.
That doesn't, but I mean, that might
be the conditions.
That might be more due to like geography or whatever. But I think that in it struck home because of the level of almost like humiliation that the people who are employing these, the housekeeper, the driver and stuff.
One family is supporting this whole other family just by having extra, what some people would consider extra roles that they don't need in their family. Like, not every kid is going to need an art tutor. Not every family is going to have a driver.
Right. But this is a very wealthy family, and we don't quite know exactly where, like, only of this wealthy family, only the father works or the husband works, and we don't quite know exactly what he does. It might be some like financial securities or something like that. I think they do kind of gloss over it, but it just struck me with a lot of like the vibes of basically deeply humiliating housework for people who essentially have no other chances in life, who are just completely down on their luck,
and this was considered a thriller.
The birth lottery.
So I knew that it was kind of like a thriller. We saw the preview originally when we actually went and saw Zombieland Double Tap. Is when I first heard of the movie, and we were like, "What? We better check that out." And then we ended up seeing it. It was visually beautiful. The characters were great, and even the fact that it was in Korean. We watched it with English subtitles, but everybody laughed in the thriller part. I was kind of on the edge of my seat, like waiting for like the thriller part, and then when it came, you were not disappointed, to say the least.
What's your favorite?
My number one, Ready or Not. And another reason, so one of the main reasons, or I should say one of my main factors in determining if I love a movie, especially a horror movie, is if it has minimal characters, and of course the actors and actresses are good, because they have to be phenomenal in order to capture your attention, and if they take place within a short amount of time. So Ready or Not and Crawl actually take place in just one day or one night, essentially. Like it's literally like, it's not in real time, because obviously an hour and a half movie is not stretched out from dusk till dawn or whatever. But I just enjoy when you don't have a backstory for the characters in Ready or Not, and you're just getting to know them throughout this story the same way that the new bride is getting to know them, or a little bit behind the scenes, because you're kind of listening into some of the family members' conversations that she's not hearing. But normally character development is extremely important in a horror movie, but because they had the help, the staff, like the butler and the housekeepers, you don't need to know that the family doesn't care about them, because this family is so wealthy and they are literally just playing games, because that's how they make their money, like you said, with their deal with the devil. So it's like, that like in certain horror movies, like certain characters are just brought in to die, but even though they were brought in to die, like you still kind of cared about them because they were innocent. Like we didn't have to care about them the way that we care about Kemper in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like, oh, we have to develop his character real quickly. We have to know that he cares about Jessica Biel and her, or in A Quiet Place, like, that the sister cares about the little boy because she lets him take the little like rocket, and then of course that's what makes the noise, and then he gets taken away by the Creators within the first 10 minutes of the movie. So obviously you're going to care about a young boy anyways, but they added those elements of his personality and the dynamic between him and his sister for you to care more about his death. So in Ready or Not, you don't have to care as much about their deaths, but they don't develop that, I guess is what I'm saying, but you still care that they die. And then ultimately at the end, when the family members all explode, you're just kind of laughing with the main character, which this year in horror movies, as far as like female leads are concerned, in Ready or Not, Crawl, and Greta, all of the leading ladies had dark eyebrows and blonde hair. So I don't know if that's like a new thing in 2019 with horror movies, but I thought it was interesting that they have like a look this year. Do you have any honorable mentions? I have one from Netflix, actually. I really enjoyed Velvet Buzzsaw.
Oh.
Because of the art aspects. The art kind of like has this entity and it actually like ends up killing the people. I mean, it's just a unique concept. And of course, Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, Toni Collette. So it was a good one.
Actually, if anything, my honorable mention isn't from this year, unfortunately, but I did see it this year.
Matter.
Yeah.
Oh, what would it be then?
It was Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that was a great movie.
That was like 2016 or 17, but we saw it for the first time on a plane, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really." It was a fun movie.
It's a really zombie Christmas musical.
It's set in the UK.
And Fonzie was like, "Oh yeah, I can just turn this off if I'm not into it," and he watched the whole thing.
It was very good.
As far as grossness is concerned, there's only been 2 movies in my adult life to make me dry heave in the theater, and this year I did see one that made me do that, and it was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh.
The toe scene where he's eating the toe
and
stew.
He spits it out.
Oh god, I had to close my eyes. I don't even know what happened. Both times I've seen it, I had to close my eyes. I literally started dry heaving in the theater. I had to like breathe, cover my eyes and my ears. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, another one that we saw in theaters, which I don't think it was very visually stunning or visually interesting, but was still kind of weird and at times boring, was Midsommar.
It was boring to me.
I mean, it was a longer movie, but longer movies can often be good. This one, it was at times very gut-wrenching and very much like even the opening scene where she finds, the family has like suffocated to death and stuff like that's an extremely intense scene.
And then you gain like, empathy and you care about this character because you know what she's been through. So they're establishing you to be on her side.
Yeah, that's the backstory for sure. But it kind of just falls off from there. There's sort of some characters that you wouldn't believe would exist in real life, like the guy Chidi, whatever, I don't know the actor's name, but he's
Chidi from The Good Place.
He's pursuing his PhD dissertation or something like that, or his thesis, and he begins to study this cult. But he's in the cult, and it's just very strange. Some of it just comes off as not very. It's one of those things that I talked about before when you are and started liking a character, and then they make a decision that a normal, rational person wouldn't make. I mean, you could say maybe in this movie that they were all on drugs or whatever, however they were being influenced by the cult, but.
At some point, though, it's like they weren't communicating. They weren't good friends. They weren't good comrades. They
were just using each other.
They were all using each other, and they were all out to get each other. And then the guy just wanted to have sex, so they're going to die. And then the movie featured a very unique scene that the audience didn't know how to handle.
Yeah,
and then people weren't able to process it, but it was ultimately a male rape scene.
Yeah. And
everyone's like, what? A male rape scene? That can't happen. Well, when you're drugged and these women are making you have sex with another woman.
Yeah.
And of rape, people.
And then what is the alternative, even from this person's perspective? It's either, have sex, get raped, or die. Because obviously at that point, his friends are missing. Right. And they just want his sperm anyways. Yeah. They just want her to have a baby. He's like the sacrifice for the main show, because he's like, they stuff him in a bear or something, in a bear costume, and then that's like a real thing, not a costume. That's a real bear. I mean, in the movie it's supposed to be a real bear suit. Yeah. Gross. Intense movies this year. So the ones we did not see that are kind of on our list, Happy Death Day to You. We did not see that one, but we did see the first one. Pet Sematary. I don't know. I didn't hear good things about that one. I heard it was super lame. Dr. Sleep seems really interesting. Brightburn. I don't know too much about that one. It's like a bad Superman, but I also heard that it just kind of plays out a way that's expected or not unique in any way.
The Prodigy was about this boy or something. I didn't
Prodigy.
see it. Yeah. Technically, Annabelle comes home. We didn't see that. And then I put the Addams Family on here because I forgot that the Addams Family had an animated movie. And of course, I will see it eventually when it comes out on video, but I didn't want to see it in theaters. The other one that we technically did see, but we weren't really paying attention to too much, was The Curse of La Llorona. Because we saw that at a friend's house. We were all kind of chatting and not as intensely watching it, but we should give that one another try, I think, too. And then I loved Knives Out, but it's just not horror enough. It was super entertaining to me, but we did see that one.
It was like a Clue movie.
Good movies. Can't wait to see what's coming out in 2020. I honestly haven't looked up. I'm just here for the ride. But I hope everybody had a good 2019, and we'll continue to hopefully do some entertaining episodes and keep you thinking about spooky things all year long.
Yeah, on our sometimes monthly, sometimes bi-monthly podcast episodes.
Thanks for listening.
Please like and subscribe.
Till next time.
Halloween.